Okay, let's be real for a second. Have you ever stared at your bank account at the end of the month and just sighed? You feel like you're doing everything you're supposed to, right? But you're just not getting ahead. It's this super frustrating feeling that so many of us have. Well, today we're going to tear that whole thing apart. We're going to figure out why that happens, and even better, what you can actually do about it.
I mean, it's the big question, isn't it? The one that kind of keeps you up at night. You put in the hours, you follow all the advice you've ever been given, and still, at the end of the month, the math just isn't adding up. Look, you're not lazy. It's not just bad luck. So what is really going on here?
And here it is, the big reveal. It's because most of us were taught the wrong game entirely, and nobody bothered to tell us that the rules changed. Think about it. It's not about how hard you're running. It's about the fact that you're on the wrong track altogether. You've been carefully following a rule book for a game that finished like decades ago.
So let's dive into that. First up, what I like to call the outdated script. This is that old playbook, right? The mental map for success that basically got handed down to us from the day we were born.
All right, does this sound familiar to you? Go to school, get good grades, land a secure job, work hard, save your money, and then, retire comfortably. Of course it does. This was the gospel. Our parents believed in it, our teachers preached it, and for a while, it worked. It was seen as this bulletproof path to a good, stable life. The promise was so simple. Just follow these steps, and you're golden.
And hey, let's be clear, this wasn't some big scam. For our parents' generation, or even our grandparents', this script was totally legit. It was a solid blueprint. Back in the 70s, a single income could actually buy a house. In the 80s, pensions were just a normal thing you got. And in the 90s, if you were loyal to your company, they were loyal back. That was the world this whole script was designed for.
But yeah, that world, it just doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. Technology, the global economy, everything shifted under our feet and completely rewrote the rulebook. The huge problem is, the script we were all handed, it never got the memo. It never got updated. And so now you have millions of people trying their absolute hardest to win a game that frankly isn't even being played anymore.
So what does it actually feel like, trying to run that old script into today's world? Well, it feels like being stuck in what we'll call the treadmill trap. You know the feeling. You're running, you're sweating, you're exhausted, but you're not actually going anywhere.
And it all starts with just pure brute force effort, right? You're working 8, 10, maybe even 12 hours a day. You get up early, you sit in traffic, you put in those long hours. You get home totally drained just to wake up and do it all over again.
And then, finally, payday comes. Your salary hits your account, and for just a split second, you feel this wave of relief. You see that number and you think, okay, I did it. For a moment, you feel accomplished.
But then, the bills come, and just as fast as that money came in, whoosh, it starts flying out. Rent, utilities, transportation, food. It's like a feeding frenzy. All the essentials of just living take their cut.
And this, right here, is the very definition of the treadmill trap. You are running faster and faster and faster just to stay in the exact same place. You're putting in an incredible amount of effort, working harder than ever, but you're not actually moving forward financially. You're just stuck. Okay, so if just working harder isn't the answer, then what is? What's the real difference between the people who manage to get off this treadmill and the ones who stay stuck on it forever? Well, it's not about effort. It's about how you think. Mindset is the entire difference. And this is the real divide right here. The broke mindset asks, how do I get a higher paying job? Which is really just asking, how can I trade my time for a little more money? But the wealth mindset asks a totally different question. It asks, how do I build systems that generate money for me even when I'm not actively working? It's about breaking that link between your time and your income.
Here's a simple way to think about it. The treadmill versus the escalator. Think of a taxi driver. They can work incredibly hard, right? 14-hour days. But their income is always capped by the number of hours they can drive and the number of people they can fit in their car. That's the treadmill. Now, think about the person who builds an app for those taxi drivers. They also work hard, but they build a system, an escalator. Once it's built, that system can serve millions of people at once, and it makes money without them having to be there for every single transaction. See the difference? One is capped, the other scales.
Okay, so how do you actually get off that treadmill and onto the escalator? It's not magic. It just takes a few really conscious shifts in how you think and what you do. So let's break down 3 absolutely critical shifts you need to make.
Shift number 1. You've got to move from depending on a single income to having a diverse range of them.
Seriously, relying on one job is like walking a financial tightrope with no safety net. One bad quarter, one layoff, and your whole world can fall apart. The goal is to build multiple streams of income, so if one dries up, you're not totally sunk.
All right, shift number 2, and this one is a biggie. You have to start obsessing over assets instead of liabilities. So what's the difference? It's simple. Liabilities are things that drain your bank account. That new car that loses value the second you drive it off the lot. The latest gadget that'll be obsolete in a year. Subscriptions that just bleed you dry every month. Assets, on the other hand, are things that feed your bank account. Think rental properties that bring in cash, businesses that run without you, investments that grow while you're sleeping. One takes money from you, the other makes money for you.
And that brings us to shift number 3, focus on skills over certificates. Look, at the end of the day, the world doesn't really care about your diploma. A certificate just proves you sat in a classroom. The market pays for one thing and one thing only: results. A skill is proof that you can actually solve a valuable problem for someone.
And we're talking about the most valuable skills that, funny enough, they don't really teach you in school. Things like how to sell, how to communicate persuasively, how to build digital products, how to really understand markets, how to manage money, and how to think strategically. Notice a pattern here? These aren't just technical things. These are timeless skills that give you leverage. The better you get, the more you can earn, because you can create value out of thin air.
So we've talked about the trap, the mindset shift, and the practical changes you can make. But all of this leads to one final and maybe the most important piece of this whole puzzle. And fair warning, it's a bit of an uncomfortable truth.
Ready? Nobody is coming to save you. I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. The government isn't coming with a magic solution. Your boss isn't lying awake at night worrying about your retirement. There is no lottery ticket with your name on it. Your financial future is 100% your responsibility.
Now, I know that sounds harsh, but honestly, it's also the most liberating thing you will ever realize. Because if it's all your responsibility, that also means it's all within your control. You get to call the shots. You have the power to change things. You don't need to ask anyone for permission.
So where do you even start? Look, you don't have to boil the ocean. You just have to take one small step forward. So identify one skill you can learn that could make you money outside of your job. Cut one liability, one subscription, one habit that's bleeding you dry. Open one investment account, even if you only put a few bucks in. Try to build one tiny thing that could make money while you sleep. Just pick one. That's how it starts.
And that's really what it all comes down to. That old script we talked about, it promised security if you just followed the rules. But the new reality we live in, it rewards people who adapt, people who build, and people who take complete ownership. Look, working hard is important for sure, but working hard on the right things is what actually moves the needle. That treadmill, it's optional. You can choose to step off whenever you want. So the only real question left is, will you?